I recently taught a finance class at our church. I just kind of went over the basics, and I thought it might be good to review some of these things here. Even though you're probably a high net worth individual, it's okay just to double check that you're checking all the boxes. And we're even going to dive a little bit deeper and go into places that I didn't say in the class because, well, it was semi-beginner. But we're going to do that today on the Furlo Capital Real Estate Podcast, where we dive into the intricacies of passive real estate investing and finances. And our mission, what is it? With a mission to equip people to invest wisely in both property and people so that together we can build wealth while improving housing. I'm James, and this is my wife, Jessie.
I'm here. Yeah, we like money education, financial education. I think we've taught a couple of different basic classes, but it's really fun right now to be doing like financial education with our kids.
Oh, yeah. That's,
yeah, our son right now is learning about paying back debt.
Yeah.
He had a construction problem.
He was playing in the house and broke one of our doors. And so we're like, oh man, what are you going to do to fix that? So he's learning how to patch a door hole.
That's right.
So it's been
Repairing
good.
the door.
And he had to spend some money that he didn't have,
Yep.
but
He's paying it back.
It's all good.
We're not charging interest, so that's okay.
Yeah. I really wanted to. Well, it was funny because he got his payday and he was like, do I have to pay it? And I wanted to be like, well, we could just charge interest and you could decide real quick if you want to pay it off. But that'll be a future lesson.
Yeah.
I also, for every single tenant who moves in, I show a video or they have to watch a video that gives some basics of the financial stuff, which we're actually going to go over some of that. And because I just think it's solid.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had a ton of things. I spoke for like an hour on Sunday. We're not going to do that here. Hopefully that'll be obvious when you see the length of the podcast. But yeah, so we usually start off with saying, hey, you want to have a conscious spending plan.
Yeah. Which
simply means two things: spend less than you earn. And ideally, when you do spend, try to spend on things that matter to you. And we get into all sorts of ways, like here's how you save money. But fundamentally, I think it's important for us, for you, to like, hey, what are those one or two things that you love to spend money on? And that's great. And then what are those one or two things that you don't love to spend money on, that just doesn't seem to bring joy into your life? If what I would try doing, if that's the case, is cut those things you don't love by 50% or more if you want to, and then shift those funds towards things that you love. And I just think what you're going to do is you're going to bring your day-to-day living more into alignment with what you value in life.
Yeah. So a classic example for us.
You love, but keep going.
Yeah. Well, an example of this is like, we don't necessarily love spending on name brand clothes, super high end, super nice. We do love to travel though. Yes. So I thrift a lot of our clothes. We get used or we get just lower end, and it's perfectly fine. And we're happy with that. And then we have more money shifted into travel funds because we really love to do that. So
yeah. Now what's interesting is we actually got ourselves into trouble on that a little bit ago because we were actually going to go take a trip. Or no, what was it? We were going to spend money on something. I can't remember, but it fell through for whatever reason. And my head instantly went to, oh, we can sneak in an extra trip this year. And
I remember that.
And you were like, or we could paint the house. I was like, oh, I guess we could do that.
Yeah, I don't remember what the money
there was
was.
Something that we were...
Right.
Something fell through. And I was like,
you were instantly like, yes, more travel.
I think it might have been that trip to Boston. I think we were all going to go as a family and
yes,
we switched it or whatever.
Something like
Doesn't
that.
matter. But I was like, definitely, because that's what's important to us. And so I was like, so quickly, sweet, we'll shift it over to that thing we love. And we're like, oh, hold on a second. There's this other thing that we should
are there other
take care of.
priorities?
But yeah, no, we totally but yeah, that's something that we try to actively do. And it's just worth looking at it. By the way, if you're not tracking your expenses, you probably should.
Yeah.
We use Quicken.com. It's relatively cheap. They don't have the most amazing analytics, but honestly, you don't need it. Which is like the simple.
Just got to know where the money's
what's
going.
What's your income? What are your expenses? What are the ratios? Like, it's like super easy. You should do it.
Well, and part of that tracking is you don't know where you can shift the funds or if you can spend more on the things you love.
Yeah.
And if you are actually spending less on the things where you want to, if you don't track, then you don't know.
So tracking's good. Yeah, I'm not a budget person.
Sure.
Because we got enough buffer in life that it's fine. But it is good to track because we do go back and
we go back and look at categories, and it's like, oh man, okay, we could adjust that a little bit or put that one down and put more into this. So
yeah,
it's worth knowing.
Totally. The next step that I usually tell people is if you don't have an emergency fund, start one now. Get to at least $1,000. Depending on the house that you live in and some other stuff, that may not be enough.
Yeah.
And I actually think that, like inflation adjusted wise, I should probably start saying $1,500 to be totally honest. But because usually what I'll tell tenants is what you don't want to have happen is have one emergency turn into two emergencies when rent comes due.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, so I have a financial incentive for them to do this. So start doing it. And the idea is by spending less than you earn, you have some sort of surplus. So it's pretty easy to do. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit because that's just the getting started piece. The other one is pay off your debt using the old debt snowball. I'm a fan of Dave Ramsey. I'm a fan of a lot of financial people, but he's a good one. He's way big on paying off all sorts of debt all the time, no matter what. And anyways, he describes the debt snowball. The big thing, here's the debate that you get into. Which one do you pay off first? Which debt? Let's say you got multiple debts. What do you think?
The one.
How do you determine which one to pay off first?
Well, I mean, I'd like to get rid of the one with the highest interest, but
highest interest because it's the most expensive debt.
Right.
Okay.
But I think it's a quicker win if you pay off the smallest balance.
Yes.
And then you put that, whatever you were paying towards that, towards the next one.
Yeah, so it's real interesting, right? Because mathematically, yes, you should always do the one with the highest interest.
Sure.
But so much about finances is less about math and more about psychology.
Yeah.
And just like what's happening with your emotions,
right?
Things like that. So I think there's two huge benefits of going after the smallest balance first. Number one, you get a quick win, or you get a win quicker, I should say.
Sure.
And then number two, if something happens and you need to go back to paying off all the minimums, you have a higher likelihood of paying off at least one of your debts. So your overall minimum that you have to pay is less. As opposed to potentially if you go after a big balance or a high interest that has a big balance, you may still have big minimums, which could cause a problem. So it gives you more optionality down the line. I also, at one time, I did a spreadsheet for us because when we graduated, we had like $80,000 worth of student loans and it was split between a bunch of them. Yeah. So I actually made a spreadsheet where I could do some scenario analysis because I'm a nerd. And I was like, okay, what if I can put like a little bit more towards it? Oh, by the way, in case you don't know this, the whole idea of the snowball is you do the minimums on everything except for the lowest balance. You throw whatever extra you can at that, pay it off, and then you roll that entire thing into the next one. And you pay that one off, and then you roll that entire thing into the next one. That's a snowball. That's the idea. And so, so I ran that scenario. Like, I did highest interest, highest balance, lowest balance, lowest monthly payment. Like, I tried all the different ones.
Yep.
And the difference between the least efficient way of doing it and the most efficient way for us, like, these were like, we're talking like, and it was just doing that, no extra money put in necessarily, just doing the minimums. It was like a difference of like 5 months.
Yeah.
On like 20 years. It was negligible. Yeah. But the difference between adding like an extra $100 towards it, that was huge. That started lopping off years on it. And so I was like, oh, okay. Like, yes, it's an interesting argument, but I think it's like one of those arranging chairs on the Titanic types of thing.
It doesn't matter.
Like,
just choose one and
the
go
trick
with
is
it.
how do you just pay more towards your debt? Like that's the question you should be asking, not what's the most optimal way to do it. Once you've paid off your debt, that's when you really want to focus on having a full emergency fund. And ideally, if you've been snowballing it, it's really easy to do the emergency fund. Ideally, you've got 3 to 6 months. And the question is, well, is it 3 or is it 6? Or how do you determine what?
I mean, probably just depends on your comfort level of.
Yeah, that's part of it.
I would rather go towards 6 months just because it's like, I don't know. Then if an emergency happens, you give yourself a longer runway.
I got bad news. We're not at that, but that's okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's on purpose. Well, so part of it is it depends, right? Like if you have a single source of income, yes, you should absolutely be at 6, maybe even 9 or 12.
Yeah.
If you have multiple sources of income, which is our situation, I'm like, the risk is relatively low.
Well, and that's true. I in my mind, I still think of like, okay, we have income and expenses. I don't think about the multiple streams of income, and so I'm like,
that's right. Think about that.
I should think about that because you're right. It's highly unlikely that all of our streams of income would just disappear all at once. Yeah, and we would shift and have a buffer. So
now, of course, I mean, it could happen. We could have a lot of vacancies, but That would be a lot of vacancies.
Yeah. I feel like we'd have other worries at that point.
Actually, the biggest
we had
risk
that many
for us
vacancies,
would
something else would be going on.
Some of the commercial tenants moving out. That would be a problem.
Yeah.
But that's also solvable.
Yeah.
Just if you're willing to earn a little bit less per square foot, you can get it rented.
Yeah.
Anyways, have an emergency fund, 3 to 6 months. The next thing that I talked about in this class was earning more income. Because I just think that it's good to do. And I went into a thing that I personally found super interesting, which is the best way to increase your income is to become more valuable. And the way you become more valuable is to increase your skills. There's essentially 3 different routes that you can go down. You can go deeper, right? You can get better at something that you're already good at. So like for me, data scientist kind of guy when I was working. And so I could go deeper in like, okay, how do I get better at doing the actual data science, doing the visualization, telling the narratives, like, you know, that kind of stuff, like the data science piece.
Yeah.
Then you can leverage, which is adding an orthogonal skill to what it is. So something that's related. So the classic you've seen is like an engineer gets their MBA because now they've got the math and the business organization piece to it. Classic. There's a lot of people who, like with data science, it might be project management is one, because you're like, these are essentially projects. Let me figure out how to do them in a more efficient way, that kind of thing.
Sure.
Or you take a writing class to get better at the writing piece of it, you know, potentially. But then the third one is optionality, which is building a wild card skill, something
unrelated,
totally unrelated. And there isn't necessarily an obvious, this is going to lead to that. And I just think that's where it's really interesting, because it's honestly like income grows the most when you have an intersection of interesting skills. And so the question is like how do you find those? And ideally ones that are valuable to the market at large. And so like it could be, I don't know, I'm just to throw something totally random out there. As a data scientist, learning how to weld. Right? Or learning potentially like how to do 3D CAD for 3D printing. It's unrelated, but yet there could potentially be something there in the future where you go, this opens up an opportunity for me somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. And so I just think that's just good. And even as an investor, high net worth person, I think those are good skills to learn and just keep that in mind of like, how do I become more valuable?
What are some of the ways that you would recommend like growing those skills? It's like, are you talking about like going back to college, taking a college class?
Oh my gosh, no, don't
reading
do that.
Books, like, I don't know.
Primary ways, reading books, I think are huge. I actually think like books are one of the best investments in the world. Like it's kind of crazy, right? You have someone who either through the School of Hard Knocks, doing a lot of research or whatever.
They're genius.
Do a lot of experience.
Sure.
They have taken the time to distill what they've learned in an organized way that in a couple hours you can read for the cost of a meal. Like it's unreal how good of a deal books are. And so I like read, I don't know, 10 to 12 nonfiction, self-improvement types of books a year. I'm reading one about customer service and how to do that better. And I think it's great. So I highly recommend just regularly reading, learning, you know, whatever it is for your ministry stuff where you're like, I could learn that. I think it's good.
I listen to podcasts and I do a leadership training course, I guess.
I think podcasts are okay. If you are new to a subject, I think is very helpful.
Yeah.
If if you know more about it, I think it's like they're just too
surfacey.
Yeah. I mean, like even this, right? Here we are, we're talking about personal finance. But if you're someone who like, I already know a lot. I'm like, all right, we're going like pretty surface level relatively. My hope is that we're throwing in little like, you're like, that's interesting. I never thought about that. So I'm trying to not just do the surface level thing.
Sure.
But I think that happens a lot in podcasts or they get repetitive. I think could also be an issue. So they're good. It's a good starting spot.
What about like getting
magazines.
like a certification or something? Like you were saying, like a welding certificate or a drone license.
Yeah, I think taking like online classes totally makes sense. I think getting a certificate
Interesting.
or some sort of licensing could make sense,
Yeah.
especially in the going depth and leverage piece. Wildcard, that may not make as much sense to do unless you love it. You're having fun. Like I was like, well, that was a leverage thing. I was like, I got my drone pilot license, but that was a leverage thing. Kind of. It was wildcard leverage. I had a very clear like, oh, here's how I can use it in my business. So I guess it would be leverage. But I think
it is
whatever.
It's obvious this particular point to me is super intriguing and interesting because I think a lot of times people go towards the defense and it's like, oh, we just got to cut expenses and we got to that's how we got to manage things. That's how we're going to have more. And it's like, no, there's two sides. You can increase income and decrease expenses, but the increase in the income, could be very interesting.
Well, in theory, it's limitless, right? Like you can only cut your expenses so far.
Sure.
But like you can
always
in theory increase your income
skills
to billions if you hit it right.
Sure.
At the very least, hundreds of thousands, millions, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, totally. I think that's where I think it's worth spending a lot of time on that.
So I should develop my wild card skill of untangling knots and then monetize that.
Yeah. Speaking of the monetization piece, I went into the class. I talked about how to be a better employee, just to earn more there. So real quickly, I talked about you become a top performer, but do it selectively. So the question is like, what keeps your boss up at night? What's important to them? And then just focus on those things and man, just let everything else go. It's okay. It really is. The other one is you want to solve problems before you're asked. I had a boss where he came to me and he was like, you just want to come bearing gifts, like go find problems, solve them, and then come to me and go, hey, guess what? I solved this problem for you. It's like, or at the very least, do the Dan Martell 1-3-1 thing where like, hey, I found this one problem. Here's my 3 potential solutions. Here's my recommendation. Shall I go for it? And yeah, I think, bosses love that kind of thing. You also want to make your work visible, which kills me because I just want my work to stand for itself, but you can't. You got to talk about it. You got to tell other people. In a work environment, the easiest way to do that is to send like an end of the week summary. Hey, here's what I did to move the ball forward. Here's how I added value. Here's whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I think it's great. So, all right, side thing, super interesting. So Jack Dorsey is the CEO of Block, which is they are in charge of Square and other financial stuff. He actually just announced he's laying off like 40% of his people. But what's fascinating, one of the things that he's had his employees doing for a while now is he has every single one of them send him a summary of what they accomplished for the week.
Whoa.
I'm talking like he had like 10,000 people.
Oh my word.
6. But what he's doing is he's using AI to then gather all that and summarize it. So instead of it being your employee telling your boss, telling your director, telling your VP and making it to him, he's getting, now granted, he's getting the positive side of it all because what's an employee going to really say? But he's getting this feedback almost in real time from the entire company, and then he can kind of dive in as needed. Super interesting use of AI. But anyways, whole point, tell your boss what it is that you're doing. And if you can somehow tie your work to revenue or savings, that's a great thing to do. When I was at HP, I volunteered for a project that was launching a new product, and it was super fun. Here's a classic one. You expand your scope before you ask for pay. So see a problem, start doing it, take care of it, prove that you're actually pretty good at it. And then you can have that conversation like, hey, I'm already doing this. Let's talk about, making it work. And then you can negotiate like a pro. And the way that pros negotiate is they look at market data. Are you actually underpaid? They then bring proof that you're doing a good job, which those weekly updates.
Yeah. Or solving problems.
Super help. Yep. And then you actually come at it collaboratively. You don't just be like, you owe me this.
I deserve more.
Yeah, exactly. Not that. Like, hey, how do I make this work? Like, that's kind of the trick. If you're looking to do some sort of side gig type of thingy, I think there's a ton of frameworks to go after.
That's where my YouTube channel fits in.
Yeah.
Side gig.
So essentially you want to find something like, what are you passionate about, good at? And then like what's valuable to other people. It's essentially that.
Sure.
Some great books that I highly recommend is So Good They Can't Ignore You by Cal Newport, if you're in the employee world. And then $1 Million Weekend by Noah Kagan is great at helping you come up with ideas. And then $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy is good at like, all right, you got an idea. Here's how you craft it in such a way that people find it valuable. or as he says, how to make offers so good people feel stupid saying no. Which I think is good. We then talked about giving in the class. And I just think giving's important. It shapes your heart. And I think it's good. And especially as high net worth individuals, I think we have that responsibility to give back and to do it sooner rather than later. I think a lot of times we fall into the trap of, well, I'm just going to earn a ton now, maximize the returns. And then once I've made a lot, I'll give a lot. And don't get me wrong, like legacy giving, it's great.
It's great.
If you're able to do it, highly recommend it. That's probably a conversation you and I should have at some point. But I think there's something to be said about giving today as well. And just kind of being able to let go of those funds. Be like, yeah, I don't have to hold on to this tightly. I think it's just good for you to do that. One of the things that we do is we actually have a seed account for giving, so that when an opportunity comes along,
we can say yes.
Yeah, we can just go, yeah, sure. We can just look at the account. How much do we got?
Yeah,
go for it, which is nice. Yeah, we got to talk about a giving goal. What do you think should be our giving dream, like as a family? What's your initial thought on that?
Like annually or
whatever,
total or
lifetime, whatever. I don't care.
I don't know.
Yeah, like what's your? I've already asked you this like twice now. A giving dream.
You gave me your number.
What was my number?
Like
I had a number.
You want to give away $1 million? Oh,
that's not my number. That was someone else.
That was someone else's.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Like I don't know. I don't think in terms of like, a dollar amount or like
you can
money.
Sponsor a kid or
I'm like I think of it more as like
solve world
I
hunger.
would want to create like something like a trust or like a
scholarship,
or something that like that the Furlo's like
endowment.
Loved this particular thing. I don't know what that education or books or I don't know something that's
we create a library.
Given a library.
Yes.
Yeah, something.
I feel like those already exist. All right. Cool.
Just, I don't know.
Something to think about.
So it is something to think
What's
about.
That dream?
I do like, I mean, I have a soft spot for kids and education. And so I'm like something within that benefits kids ongoing or I don't know. I like food too. So feeding hungry people.
There's that. Hungry puppies.
Oh, hungry puppies.
Oh, man. Yeah.
More puppies.
All right. We'll have to think about that. We could help out the homeless somehow. That's real estate related. I don't know. I really thought about it. Which we should. That's on our list. But the next step that we talked about was investing your income into assets. And this was an interesting part of the class because oftentimes the advice is, hey, invest 15% or more if you can afford it. Put it into your employer 401k up to the matching amount, then head over to the Roth IRA, maybe set up a Vanguard account, total market index, go for it, max that out. And then if you still have money left over, you can either go back to the 401k or set up another account or whatever, like those kind of things.
Sure.
Which is interesting. And that's what I usually recommend to people, even though we did not do that path at all. I'm just like, man, it just feels weird to talk about it. I was like, I mean,
it's just,
I
it's a really
I did do the 401k employer thing. I did do that. But instead of the Roth IRA, we just put it into real estate.
Yeah.
And instead we'll just take the cash flow. And then we reinvested that into more properties. And then eventually I had enough of those where I was like, all right, cool. Like I can stop working.
Yeah.
And the cool part about real estate was I wasn't just getting that classic 7 to 10% return because we were actively involved in the investments. We were able to get significantly higher, which meant we didn't have to invest as much it just grew faster.
Yeah.
Which was rather nice. And so, but it was just it's always weird, that part of the classroom, like, so here's the recommendation, not what I did, but here's the safe thing, which I get it, right? Most people, they've got a life and they've got other things that are important to them. They're not going to spend the time like learning about real estate or whatever, starting up a business and getting after it. And so, so it makes sense to do the passive thing. But I definitely was like, oh man, I do the real estate piece.
Well, there are certain options to invest more passively in real estate than we did.
Yes.
So
that's true.
I think doing your due diligence on finding a sponsor or fully understanding, like,
is this,
well, it makes sense
true,
because it's like, is this the best use of my funds to just put it in a Roth IRA or to put it in, a Vanguard account? Or would I get a better return if I invested in something else with someone else? So just looking at all the options, I think is a good idea.
Yeah, no, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's good. So we talked about that. I talked about an interesting aspect that I thought was worth bringing up. It was cool math. I don't actually remember where I read this, but they were comparing retiring when you're 65 versus retiring when you're 75.
Yeah,
and just those 10 extra years. And I did a shocker. I whipped up a whole spreadsheet because I was like, how does this math work? So I did the whole 4% rule and went, oh, look at that. It does come out to like $2 million if you want to retire when you got 80 grand. Awesome. And then I started doing the comparisons of 65 versus 75. So here's the crazy math that happens. So if you are retiring 75 versus 65, there's 10 years there. I do two things. Number one, that's 10 less years that you need to spend in your retirement. And it's also 10 more years that not only do you get to save for retirement, but your existing funds get to compound. Right? Which I get it. In theory, you don't spend all your money day one when you retire, so it still does some compounding afterwards.
Sure.
But, you get my point.
Yeah.
And it's shocking how much those 10 years make a difference because it essentially means that you can save half as much to retire with the same amount.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't think I fully understood that the first time you explained it to me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because of that compounding piece.
Wow.
To it. Yeah.
Huh. So if you're able, there's quite a few people who aren't able to continue working.
Depends on the job type, right? If you're doing construction, you should aim for 65.
Sure.
But, if you're a lawyer or a business person, a manager type of thing, real estate investor, it's pretty reasonable to say,
Kidman director.
Kidman director. Yeah, it's reasonable to say, we'll go until we're 75 or 70.
Yeah.
Right? I think the math for 70 it's like a third less or 25% less, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
It's... And the whole point is just something to think about that I was trying to make is you don't necessarily want to go all in for some future retirement date. Instead, you may think about saying, hey, maybe I'll still lock in my lifestyle for what it is. And I'm going to commit to working a little bit longer so that I can enjoy things today. And it does give you an opportunity to give more, which I think is good, as we talked about. But the other piece, which I thought was fascinating, was just talking about kids. And this idea of if you're working really hard to save up so that you go, so once I retire, then I can hang out with my kids and stuff like that. There's two problems with that. Number one, they'll probably be working hard based on what you modeled for them. So they're not actually going to have time to hang out. And B, they may not want to hang out with you because you weren't fun when they were younger. And so you kind of want to establish that pretty early on. I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
Hanging out with my parents
Be willing
is cool.
to work more years and spend more time with your family now in your working years.
Yeah.
Huh.
So that was just
it's interesting.
something I just kind of threw out, which again was kind of weird because that wasn't really what we did, but I don't know, we were on a different trajectory altogether. But anyways, that was an interesting thing. We then talked about protecting your future, talked about insurance, and the main thrust here was for your liability insurance stuff. Just review it once a year. It's good to do.
Yeah.
We change ours, I don't know. It seems like it's every 5 to 7 years, I think. And just because usually we make a new relationship and something better comes along. One of them, I didn't have a choice. The guy was like, I'm getting out of this. You got to choose someone new. I'm like, no.
Okay.
But it happens. Life insurance, it's important. I would avoid whole life insurance and instead go for term life insurance. You just got to remember, right? Term life insurance, right? It's for a fixed amount, for a fixed amount of time, for a fixed payout. And if you skip 1 month of pain, it's gone. So but you know it, and it's super nice. And the question is, how much should you get? And it's whatever the final expenses will be, plus whatever debts you have, plus still paying for college if you want to, and then your income times 10. And that's kind of what you should have for life insurance. And then I think actually more important for high net worth individuals is getting a will and trust set up. And a super fun story. I really like this. It was C.V. Miller, Charles Vance Miller, I think his name was. Super cool guy. He was a Canadian. He died in 1929. And in his will, he gave a part of his fortune to whoever it was who had the most kids in the next 10 years. And it was crazy. And so there was the baby race that went on. And ultimately, there were 4 women who each got $110,000 for their 9 kids. Each. Which is, dude, just pumping out the babies.
Gosh. That's wild.
That's just insane, man. Which I was trying to do the math. I was like, man, what's 110,000 equivalent for in like 1939, right? Like that's a pretty that's not quite $1 million.
Significant.
But most like, dude, you got 9 kids. Like that's a lot of kiddos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the point of me sharing that was, A, you can put whatever you want in a will, which is kind of cool. But it's really important to just get a will and trust set up. That's also especially important if you have kids who are under 18, like we do, because it helps say where they're going to go.
Yeah.
And there's professionals. Go talk to them. Don't use ChatGPT for that one.
My word. Go talk to a professional.
I mean, you can, but I wouldn't.
They have tools that help you to think through all of it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And then the last thing we talked about was automation. And because at the end of the day, we're cognitive misers, which is a really fancy way of saying we're lazy.
Yeah.
We don't want to have to remember to do all this stuff. And so as much as you can automate things, that's what you want to do. And like I said, we use Quicken.com for tracking our expenses. We use CapitalOne.com for our savings account. So it's really cool. You can set up 25 sub savings accounts. Just kind of throw money in there every single month.
Yeah, auto transfers.
So like we have stuff for our emergency fund and for travel and
car
for auto, for home, whatever. Apparently Betterment is also an option. They give you 20 sub savings accounts. Their interest is a little bit more. I was looking this up. So Capital One, as of today, these things change all the time. They were at 3.3%. Betterment was at 3.9%. Whatever. It's slightly better.
Yeah.
I have an account with Open Bank. So when we get investor funds, oftentimes we get a lot of money up front.
Right.
But we don't necessarily need it all day one. And so we throw it into Open Bank. And that was at 4.09%.
Interesting.
I don't need a bunch of sub savings accounts. I just needed one big one. And so I was like, well, what's the best interest rate? So we try to earn our 4%. Just, it's like we're building a house and we got all the funds up front, but the contractor needed them in different tranches. And so we're like, well, yeah, we're going to earn our 4% on our, I don't know, whatever we were sitting on that first day.
That's just like that savings account?
$60,000. Yeah, it's just a high yield savings account. And which I'm like, beat some money, whatever. And then Vanguard.com is what I recommend if you're going to get into the old stock market investing because it's a nonprofit. So it's just like 82% cheaper than everything else.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. And when you do that, just set up automatic transfers, man. Like
you don't have to think about it. Yeah.
If there's books that you like to read, because again, best investment ever, highly recommend it. I had a bunch that I recommended. The first one is I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi. Crazy title, but great book, just highly actionable, really good. It's designed for the 20-somethings and 30-year-olds just getting started, but still really good. He's got one, Money for Couples, which I actually think it was good for us. It led to a lot of really good conversations that we had because it just gets into the, hey, how do you, you just spend money differently, right? And how do you have those conversations?
Yeah, how do you align on your
every year we have a conversation about Christmas gifts.
Every year?
What that is. So anyways, helps with that. One of them that I really loved was The Millionaire Next Door by, what was that, by Thomas Stanley. Really good. Just, I don't know, just got me thinking about wealth a little bit differently.
Yeah, it's more about mindset.
Yeah.
How you view wealth.
So good. Simple Money, Rich Life was a good one. He's a Christian author.
I don't know if I've read that one.
No, I don't think so. He's the guy who set the giving goal.
Maybe I should read that one.
It was good. Dave Ramsey, classic, Total Money Makeover. Psychology of Money is also really good. And which again, it's less about the mechanics and the dollars and cents, but more just like your mindset. Psychology, some might say.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, that was what we talked about in the class. And just
it's interesting
obviously
stuff.
went over it pretty quickly here, but I think it's good just to have that reminder of like, oh, yeah, I do need to set those up and I do need to get those things. And just make sure your financial house is in order. It's good because we do want to be good stewards of the resources that we're given. And so doing these things help you do that.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's worth it.
And if you are looking for additional ways to invest your precious resources, we'd love to help you do that. And so you can learn more about us at furlo.com, where we've got our investing thesis, our heart behind it, and different ways that you can get involved, which is investing in syndications, investing as debt, or if you already own the asset, hiring us as a property manager. So lots of ways that we can help you on the real estate front. So with that, thanks for listening. Have a great day.